So I think it's important for our audience to understand a bit more clearly the issues of secularism, how it's defined in the Turkish context. What actually do you mean, and how is secularism enforced in traditional ways within Turkish society?
Yeah, that's important. That's why we need to translate the words, because in France, when we speak about secularism, they understand it, because Turkish secularism is very much similar to French secularism, la laïcité, and we use, apart from France, this is the only European country which uses the word even laïcité, and which refers to a more voluntary politics of the state to keep religion outside the public sphere. Let's put one single definition. There are many, but this is an important one. That is how to keep the public sphere as a neutral space. That's why, for instance, the headscarf of the students in universities, that is the claims of those Muslim girls who want to attend the university classes with a Islamic headscarf, is banned in Turkey, because this is the way, as it is banned in France, but in high schools, because this is the definition of a public sphere, common space, that you have to leave behind you when you enter into a space, your ethnic or religious identities. All right? So that's one definition of secularism. There are many other, for instance, equidistance, how a state should be equal in its treatment with Muslims, non-Muslims, also among different Muslim groups, confessions between Sunnis and Shiites, and so on. So in all these respects, we can discuss that Turkish secularism maybe is not up to the ideal model of French or European, but there's not one single model of secularism, right?
What is the driving force behind this secular view in trying to keep the public sphere clean, if you will, of these religious expressions?
I think that's why I emphasized more on this aspect, feature of secularism, because it is this vehicle of modern life, right? That is what is interesting, is that definition of secularism in a Muslim majority context means also a kind of social life project. So gender equality, but also women's participation in the public sphere. So it takes a different meaning, because secularism also is related with different religions. And in a Muslim context, it becomes very much related with everyday life politics and sexuality issues and gender equality.
It does seem to me, though, that somehow defining what it is to live a modern life, to interact with the modern world, in this Turkish view of secularism, requires pushing religion to the side or into the past even. That the definition of modern requires this kind of transition. Is that fair to say? Can you tell us more about what modern looks like from that perspective?
That's exactly what happened. I mean, Turkish modernity pushed totally back religion into, maybe into the private life, but even not into the private life. A kind of stigmatization occurred as well. I mean, if you want to make part of the modern life, for instance, if you want to make part of the elites, either intellectual or political elites, political is more open, but intellectual elites, or the, you know, how we define an elite, there was a kind of a tension between your Muslim identity and your desire to become an elite. You have to leave your Muslimness behind yourself.
How did that work in practice? I mean, there is a Turkish elite that seems very well to have adjusted to that.
I mean, now what we see is these new elites are coming. I mean, both conservative, religious, pious, and making part of the political elite and even the intellectual elite. That is the new thing, right? But at least that was the model of what we call Kemalism or Atatürk Republic, tried to set a definition of the ideal Republican citizen as someone who is turned towards modern life and basically get rid of the Islamic traditions.